This is so loud. Oh my gosh.
Hello, and welcome to another Goldnerds live podcast. I'm your host, Lons, and I'm joined by my co-host, Shy. Hi, Shy.
Hey there, Lons. Great to be here. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have my usual like schmoopaloos thing because we are in the presence of the marvelous and wonderful and fabulous Brea B. The IRL, as you taught me. In real life, Brea B.
IRL, we are indeed. The marvelous Brea B is in our living room, the Goldbergs living room with us. Hello, welcome to the Goldnerds podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
No, thank you for joining us, and we are so excited to have you on. Why don't we start a little bit about your past with Adam, how you met, how did that situation go? How did you meet Adam?
So Adam and I met in a production of a Neil Simon play called Brighton Beach Memoirs. And this was being done at the Old Academy Players, which is in like the East Falls section of Philly. I didn't know anybody at the theater. I didn't know Adam. I was just like, let's audition for this play. I had played the younger sister in a production a couple of years earlier. So I was very familiar with the show, and went in and got the part of Nora. Adam, of course, played Eugene. And we met at rehearsals and started hanging out in between rehearsal, on breaks and stuff. And he was really, really, really funny. He was charming. He had such charisma on stage. He was so confident. I was just like in awe of him. And just so cool and so sweet. And he started writing me these little letters during rehearsals, and then, the rest is
So I have to ask about this because you were referenced when Brea B first comes on the show, and Sadie Stanley comes in and plays her. They show a clip of you at the end of the show when you were younger, and the headline is something like Brea B being too cool for me.
Too cool for Adam.
So for the longest time, we assumed that Adam actually never in this show. In our podcast, we assumed that Adam never got to date you. That you were
I heard that podcast. I was dying.
So we assumed that you guys never got a chance to date, and that this was like Adam, now the Hollywood star, throwing the girl he had a crush on into his show many years later. But I guess that wasn't the case.
That was definitely not the case. No, he does that. He does that. He said that in real life. He says it on the Adam's characters. Says it in the show. Like, she's too cool. She's too cool. I don't know. I still don't understand where that comes from. I certainly didn't consider myself a cool kid at any point in my high school experience. So I've always been very curious as to how Adam kind of came up with that. But obviously, it's really fun if you're going to have to relive your high school experience on a national television show. It's not so bad to be like the most popular girl in school, right?
And Brea B is definitely the most popular girl at William Penn.
And not only that, and we've talked about this a lot, Brea B is popular and just so nice and cool. This is not a Can't Buy Me Love. Remember that movie? This isn't a Can't Buy Me Love situation. Like a very nice tribute that you get to be popular and cool and nice.
Like a nice person. Yeah. I went to an all girls high school. So I went to Little Flower Catholic high school for girls in the city. And I don't know, like, the popular thing in an all-girls school, I would imagine, is very different from a popular thing in a co-ed high school, right? Like, there is no prom queen. There is no homecoming. It's just, you wear a uniform. You don't get to, show off your brand new outfit. It's very much just like you're in school with girls and you just do your thing and nobody cares. Like, so it's really fascinating for me to watch this version of me in this high school with boys. Because I'm like, wow, what would I have done?
I'm gonna bet that this is exactly what would have happened.
It's so crazy. When I think back to high school and I try to picture boys there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how people go to high schools and get anything done. Because aren't you just like looking around like, oh wow, look at all these like people to like, hang out with and like go on dates with. Like, I don't know how people did it. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you meet Adam at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
How does that evolve for you personally from theater to acting? Like, I feel like it's a different medium. So did you just like, were you inspired and you wanted to pursue it, as a career?
I started working as a child actor, if you will, when I was around 11 years old. And by the time I met Adam, I was really, really seriously into it and had decided that this is like what I'm going to pursue. And I want to go to college and get a degree in theater. So yeah, I had been actively working and taking classes and auditioning for a pretty good amount of time when I actually did that show with Adam. And I loved singing as a kid. That's kind of what got me into theater in the first place. My parents played music, all different types of music all the time growing up. My mom was super into musicals. So I grew up listening to, West Side Story and, The Sound of Music and Annie and like.
May I ask, what is your position on Cats?
I was just about to say Cats, and then I was like, should I not say Cats?
So I am like a Cats super fan, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
And I go and appear on other podcasts. Like I will look on Twitter and people will say like they're going to do an episode on Cats, and I will volunteer for people I don't know and I will come on and defend Cats.
Cats was my first Broadway show that I had ever seen.
Me too.
Touring company show. Let me just say, my first Broadway show that I ever got to see was Les Miserables in New York, but Cats came to Philly to the Mann Music Center of all places. And I was a kid, and my mother took me for, I think it was like my 8th grade graduation present, and the cats were crawling over us in the audience. I mean, it's just like I remember listening to the album as a kid and just thinking, oh, this is definitely what I'm going to do. I want to dress up as a cat and sing songs.
Yeah, I think you would. I mean, again, I spend a lot of time thinking about Cats. I think you would make a great Bomb Ballerina or Demeter. Those are big.
Demeter. Oh gosh, such a fascinating. I mean, it was crazy. Nobody had ever done anything like it. It was like over the top and magical. And who doesn't love cats?
I've now found out many people don't, but I stand by it unironically, and I am so glad that you're with me on this.
I have not seen the movie because I kind of want to keep like my experience of it like a purely theatrical.
I respect that. I don't want to, and you have a reputation to maintain in Hollywood. Sorry, I did not mean to derail the story of your love of Broadway, but Lon said like one of those magic words like in Pee-wee's Playhouse, and everyone's like, Broadway musicals, what?
Yeah. And that was another thing that Adam and I bonded over, because Adam's knowledge of musical theater, by the way, was remarkable. He would give me, he would make me mixtapes and things. He'd be like, listen to this show and listen to that show. And I was just, that was one of our biggest things that we loved to do, is listen to musicals and talk about shows. And he was always going to New York to see things. And he loved it. He was as big of a musical theater geek as I was. So yeah, that was definitely a bonding topic. Absolutely.
So we have a bunch of comments in the chat from the awesome crew who show up to our live podcast. One very important one here is Goldbergs fan says it's a good thing you haven't seen the movie. So I wanted to get to that one immediately. I feel slightly differently, but I agree. Chad Smith, this is one of the original Goldnerds. Before I ever watched the show. Even Chad's one of the originals, and also one of the big Wendy fans. And he clearly loved your appearance. We've also got let's see. Oh yeah, we've got tons. Oh, and we've got some. Thank you, the big gold nerd, who has queued up our poll.
Oh my goodness.
It's queued up our poll. I'm going to put the poll information up on the screen. So go to menti.com and vote. And you're going to vote if Vicky B should join the Frentas, because I, for one, loved your chemistry with Wendy and with Beverly. And I feel like there could be a whole dynamic story of adding this extra dimension to the Frentas that would be a lot of fun. And oh wow, this is a big deal. We are in the presence of greatness. This is the original Gold Nerd. This is Joe who started all this. Lons and I are the second generation Gold Nerds, but Joe started the podcast, the website, the social media, along with Ash Miller.
So awesome. Hey Joe.
And so yeah, I put our poll up, and people should be in there voting right now. I'm going to also put the link in the chat for people, or the information in the chat for people, and we'll come back to it in a little bit and see where the fans are at with Vicky B joining the Frentas. Over to you, Lons. Sorry.
Fingers crossed. I mean,
come on, guys.
How awesome.
Vote with your heart, not your head.
Yes, that would be a dream come true. It was already a dream come true to do the show, obviously. Like, I still can't believe I actually did it. I'm still kind of like trying to figure out how that whole thing happened. But yeah, it would be, I had the best time. I mean,
so why don't we talk about how that came to be? Fast forward years, you still keep in touch with Adam, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I moved out here it'll be 9 years in January. And Adam was one of the first people that I reached out to and was just like, hi, I know nothing about Los Angeles. And I know that you've been there and you've been working there, and any advice you have would be greatly appreciated. And he was like, oh yeah, introduce you and, get you some meetings and, hey, why not have a line on my TV show that I'm writing now? And it was just like, he was amazing. And then he started developing the pilot for the Goldbergs very soon after I got here, and was like, hey, I'm doing this show and it's about my family. I was like, oh, wow, that's really crazy. And then obviously the show came on, and, all of the real people were introduced, and it was so wild. And he was like, we're thinking of you at some point, we'll see what happens. And it just sort of became like a little, not like a joke, but it was kind of like, we'll see. And so seasons kept going, and I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then it happened. And I got to, have Brea as a character last season. And it was just like it's still really hard for me to wrap my head around it. Like, when I see her, Sadie, on TV and I hear my name, I'm like, do they mean me? Like, is that real? Because I know it's very normal for the Goldverse, obviously, like that's what the show is. But like, to actually go through it is still, it's so surreal. It's so wild and such a trip.
So Joe asks, Brea, weren't you on an earlier season, like 1 or 2? I believe that's true, because we were digging into your IMDb.
Yeah, season 4, I believe it was. I played a mom named Mrs. Banica, buying some presents for my son's birthday party. It was when Barry and Erica were working at Spencer's Gifts.
Spencer's Gift. What a great episode.
Yeah. Again, that was another sort of just another gift from the amazing Adam Goldberg. I was, really trying to get some more credits in TV. And he was like, absolutely, here's a co-star, come on and do this role and get that credit. And it was awesome. I mean, that was obviously really incredible of him and really surreal to get to meet everybody and just be on set and like, oh my gosh, it's Goldbergs. Now, it wasn't shot at Sony because they were on location. We were in a mall for that episode. But I was like, okay, one step closer. One step.
That's really cool.
We'll see.
Well, the now legendary Victoria B has weighed in and says that Vicky B should be a regular on the Goldbergs.
We agree, Victoria.
Yes.
We agree. And we don't say that about everyone. We won't mention
No, we don't.
Some other recent girlfriends that have departed the show. Not Adams, but that were around.
Okay.
There was nothing personal to the actors, but you got to play your mom relating to Mrs. G. But that means in real life, you and your mom probably did interact with Mrs. G. We have had a wonderful opportunity to interview her. What was Beverly Goldberg like back in the 80s?
Beverly Goldberg was just the most incredible, like, force of nature. You know, like when Beverly entered a room, you knew Beverly was there. She just, I mean, like the amount of energy and excitement and like passion she had for Adam was next level. And it really was. It was just like, you know, she was the most incredible, like that mom that's like, yeah, my son's amazing and you're all going to know it. And it was, yeah, she was incredible. She was so cool and so much fun. And I the most time that my mom and Beverly really spent together was actually at the cast party for our show for Brighton Beach Memoirs. And that's pretty much like the most like time I think that they actually like got to hang out. I don't know if my mom is still on, maybe she can verify that, but yeah, I mean, Adam and I dated for a very, very brief time. It was basically like at the sort of, it happened during the show, which we did in the spring. I think it was like maybe like an April, May, something like that production, like right at the end of the school year, and then dated through the summer. So it wasn't quite as long as it is depicted on the Goldbergs. So yeah, my mom wasn't necessarily like coming and hanging out at the house. It's like the idea of that, you know, they always have to boost things up for TV. So
now another ex-girlfriend of Adam's that has been a guest on the show is the amazing Jackie Geary.
Yeah.
And Adam similarly played her up as a little bit too cool for him when she comes back. Did you and Jackie ever
interact?
Paths? You're both also actors, and was there ever any like facing off over Adam's love or
No, we didn't, because they met when Adam was in camp. And then I believe she lived in New York and I lived in Philly. And so we never, like, I wasn't at camp. It was totally separate. It's a really funny story though. When I moved to LA, I was looking up, you know, places to study and places to take classes. And, you know, they have like actors workshops where you get to meet casting directors. And I had called, a friend of mine recommended this place. I called to get an appointment. And they were like, we'll set you up with somebody who will be your sort of guide here at the school studio. And it was Jackie. And
no way.
We had never spoken, literally, ever. And she called to confirm I had to like do like an interview audition type thing. And she's like, oh, I'm just calling to confirm tomorrow. And I was like, actually, I'm shooting, a friend of mine has a TV show and I'm going to the taping of the pilot and I'm going to be like a featured extra, which is a whole different story that I don't think most people know about because I ended up not being in it. It's very convoluted, but Adam was like, yeah, come and do this thing. And she was like, oh, she's like, I have a friend who has a TV show. And I was like, oh, it's the Goldbergs. And she's like, oh, I know the executive producer. And I was like, yeah, I know an executive producer on it too. Still am not figuring. And then I was like, wait, you're Jackie Geary? I was like, did you go to camp with Adam? And she was like, yes. And she dropped the phone. I was like, oh, I'm Brea B, and Adam and I were dating when he met you, and she, like, I could hear her screaming, like just screaming off in the distance. And like, I mean, she picked up the phone and it was just like, I cannot believe that of all of the, like, how in the world is the world this small?
It's the Goldverse.
It's the
Goldverse.
It's interconnected.
Yeah. And I got to meet her. I got to come into the school where she was doing her thing and like hang out. And she was super nice. Obviously, she's amazing. She gave me like advice. I mean, she was super cool. And I have to do a shout out to Jackie Geary, because honestly, if it weren't for her, I probably wouldn't have been able to play Vicky B, because she really was so, I mean, that was like, that she had suggested it to Adam.
Wow.
Well, Jackie's awesome. She's a friend to the Goldnerds beyond just having been in the Goldverse.
Yeah.
And also played her own mother. So it's a great tradition.
She's the OG, you know? I mean, it's
that you're all a part of. We got another great question from the Big Gold Nerd. And this is probably, you know, we talked about you and the Frentas, and we'll get to the poll soon. But Wendy, you have such a funny scene with Wendy when the moment when I've rewatched it multiple times, the moment when she says, Adam came from my body, and you say, that's a thing that people sometimes say, or people might say, or something like that. It cracks me up every time.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Wendy?
Oh, it was a pinch me. This is not real. This is not real. You know, you're there to do a job, right? So I'm like, okay. I was taking everything very, very seriously, obviously. But then you see Wendy and you're like, oh, that's Wendy. And I had met her a couple of times before. Adam had introduced me to her. I got to come on to set one time, like many seasons ago, and just kind of visit. And she was so lovely and so sweet. And we've been sort of friends on Instagram. And, you know, she's just an amazing person. But like, I will say I was very intimidated, not because she was intimidating. I mean, Wendy was the nicest, sweetest, so cool. She was like, you got this, like super easy, just do your thing. Like, she was so awesome and so just chill. But I was like, oh, you're Wendy. Like, this is like, I'm acting with Wendy. Like, what's happening? So yeah, it was, I mean, but she was fantastically supportive, friendly, cool, chill. She's just like, you're great, you're here. Like, yeah, do your thing. She's like, you just do your thing. I was like, okay, I will do that. And yeah, but it was very much like, you know, your head's like, wait, this is happening, you know, but you're like in work mode, but then you're also in mega fan mode.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, like, look, it's Wendy. Like, so strange. Oh my God.
Well, let's go to the results of the poll before getting
yes. Let's see, guys. I hope you chose wisely.
Also, I will admit that I probably didn't like 100% put the poll together. Like I'm still learning how to use Mentimeter properly, so this will be kind of funny when we see how this turns out. So here is our poll. I'm gonna bring it up. Here we go. So we got, should Vicky B join the Frentas? And the answer in both cases was yes. So I actually truly don't understand how people answered this, but our answers were as follows. One was, yes, Essie, if you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, because in the Goldbergs girls episode, we see the comparison between the Golden Girls, and this is one of the quotes that Beverly says to Essie. And then also one of the great quotes is, Essie, you are such a Blanche. And I guess I got less votes, but I don't really know why. But the bottom line is we are deeply in the positive zone for Vicky to join the Frentas.
Oh, and man.
Definitely Vicky to come back on the show. So the Gold Nerds have spoken. And I will say, the wonderful Chris Bishop, he was messaging with us, and he said, he said, she was wonderful on the episode and to give his best to you. And so clearly Chris Bishop is into it. So Chris, we're gonna, you know, the Gold Nerds have some words for you over Brea B.
Oh,
I mean, or Brea B and Vicky B.
this is so awesome, you guys. I can't. Yeah, I can't talk now. That's happening. My apologies. No, it was a dream come true, and not to be like sappy and but it was an absolute dream come true. It was such an honor. I still can't believe I got to do it. And yeah, I'll never forget it. It was the greatest thing. I hope to be back. Obviously, who wouldn't want to be back? I mean, hello. But yeah, I'm just eternally grateful, like, to the entire show and to everybody who was like, yeah, come do this, because it was, the most extraordinary opportunity. And who gets to play their mom, like, in a show?
Now, did you talk with your mom about how she acted and like kind of get some tips from your mom to put into the character?
It's really strange. It was such an emotional experience for me. It was so like weird, meta. I was like, okay, I didn't want to think too hard about how to play her, because I didn't want to get like, it was already such an odd like thing to do. And I didn't want to be too in my head about like, okay, so now you're your mom, but like, I was like, let me just kind of like let my own natural Vicky B isms, which I have obviously inherited from her, being her daughter, and let me just kind of let that come out, which I think it did. I think my mom approved. she was happy with it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Vicky seems to have a real respect for Brea in the show. Like, Vicky's suggestion is, let's talk to them like adults. How was your relationship with your mom growing up?
Oh my gosh.
And here you are, the two of you.
Oh my goodness. She's going to kill me. My mom and I, we were like sisters. We are like sisters. We always thought that was such a cool thing about our relationship. I mean, obviously she was a parent first, and very strict and always on me for doing everything the way I should be doing it, as moms do. But yeah, definitely closer, almost like sisters, and extremely supportive and just so proud. And, we're from Philly. We're from Philly, like, we're Philly girls. Like, you don't mess with Philly with girls.
I'm wearing my I'm wearing my We the Gritty t-shirt right
now. Yes, 100%. So, Mama Bear doesn't mess around. Mama B is like, always fighting for us, always championing. I can never say that word. My brother, I have a younger brother. She was, the most supportive person, because this career is insane. And I started when I was about 10 years old, and she and my dad were both like, yeah, we're going to support you. We will help you, but it's going to be hard, and you've got to be tough. You have to have a thick skin. You're going to get rejected all the time. You're going to be, up for things, and you don't get them, and that's going to be hard. But if you're really serious, we'll help you, and we'll be there to support you. And yeah, my mom and my dad were both really just like, if you want to do this, we got your back. I'm very lucky.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Mom.
And I mean, speaking of Philly and speaking of acting, I feel like, Lons, we got to ask about one of your all-time favorite movies,
Silver Linings Playbook. Tell me all about that experience. Tell me how it was working opposite Bradley Cooper, and one of the greatest movies of all time, I think. Certainly the Academy thinks so too, being nominated. So what was your experience like?
I mean, that's hard to describe, honestly, even all these years later. That was definitely a pinch me. I can't believe this is happening. Bradley Cooper was so just down to earth, so genuine, and so respectful. And I came onto set, my first day was the shower scene. So I met Bradley wearing nothing. but a robe and some, you know, pasties. And, you know, it was just like, I can't believe we're about to do this. And he treated me like I was any other working actor. It wasn't like, oh, you know, you're not a star, you're not from Hollywood. He was like, oh, we're doing this scene and let's talk about it and let's get some ideas about what we want to do. And David O. Russell was there, and we all just, the three of us, sat down and talked about the story and the characters and the moment and what was going to happen. And it was just like, it was completely, it was a dream. It was like being in a dream.
So that scene, which I watched again this morning, I mean, you mentioned a shower. This is not a romantic shower scene. This is a pivotal, violent, intense scene of Bradley Cooper's character of Pat, right?
Yeah.
Of Pat coming and finding his wife, who you play the Nikki, who is this character that has, you know, bemused him. And this is, we're supposed to carry this moment through us through the whole film, because this is the only glimpse of you we get at the beginning.
Right.
There's no pressure, right? Everyone has to buy in that glimpse of you why he would be so fixated on trying to get back together with you, and why he would go berserk and attack the history teacher, the science teacher, the librarian, whatever. And when you have that small moment, how do you make the most of that small moment with that much riding on your shoulders?
That's a really good question. You know, I was completely terrified that day. I had never done, first of all, it was the biggest show. It was the biggest film I'd ever worked on. I mean, I'm with David O. Russell and Bradley Cooper and obviously everybody else. But at that point, my role had not been extended into the dance scene. And David was deciding on whether or not he would bring me back. There was a few people on the production just thought it would be better to keep Nikki as this mysterious, you know, we never see her, you know, she's on this pedestal, like, you know, keep her sort of this idea versus have her be a real life person. And then I basically shot the shower scene. I was completely terrified because I had never, ever done any type of nudity before. And I was, you know, had a huge conversation with David about that before I decided to do it. And then had like the best time, if you can call doing a sort of semi-naked shower scene the best time. I mean, you know, but had the best time working with them, and was like, David, you got, you know, you have to bring me back to do this, to do the second half, you know, to do the dance scene. I was like, not just because this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me and could potentially change my life, but because in the novel by Matthew Quick, it's the choice that the audience and the readers have been waiting for Pat to have that opportunity that he's been chasing this whole film, is to have a moment with Nikki, or to choose Tiffany. You know, he's got this decision, and it's I have goosebumps right now, literally, because it's what's he gonna do? You know, like, what has he learned? And like, oh God, it was like, you have to, like, it honors the story. You know, it's such a great moment. And I had to wait a few days, and then was told by the production, oh yeah, you know, we are going to bring you back for the final scene in the film. And oh man, it was very intense.
I would say explosive, you know, very, you know, he's such a passionate guy, and for you to play opposite about that, you know, how did you get your head around, you know, in the right mind space for that?
To play in this scene at the end of the film?
Yeah.
Gosh, so these are a lot of secrets about Silver Linings Playbook. So
don't say anything that will get you in trouble with Bradley Cooper.
Right?
No one wants you in trouble with Bradley Cooper.
No trouble with Bradley. No, the scene hadn't really been like fully written. my interaction with Bradley, with Pat. And so David was like, okay, you know, we're just gonna wing it. And I was like, I'm gonna have to wing it with Bradley Cooper. Like, what's happening?
Wow.
So it was very, very intense. It was very, I was just sort of like, oh, okay, you know, how do I do that? And, you know, it was, I spent 3 days on set in that scene watching and just thinking about the relationship. And I had obviously read the book a bunch, and it was just in this really like crazy place. And then when it came time to shoot it, it was just so natural. He was just like, hey, and I was like, wow, like, who are you? Like, where's my ex-husband? Because what was that? And this is such a bittersweet thing to see you so happy and out there doing something. And also, like, clearly, you know, we're done. And it was very, I was so nervous. Again, I was so nervous. So I had those jitters that I think Nikki would have had to have seen him for the first time since, you know, the incident. And it was all just very much like, okay, let's just be in the moment and see what happens. And David was right there. And he was, you know, coming up with things to say, and he was giving us lines, and we were saying them. And, you know, you're acting and hearing David. David works very, very, very intimately. Like, I mean, he is standing right next to you when you're shooting. So he's almost like another character, if you will, because you hear him, he's right there, which is, I think, incredible. Like, it was the coolest, most intense, like, challenging thing I had ever done. And it just to sort of, you know, be listening to him and in the moment, listening to Bradley and kind of processing it. And it was wild. It was
that cast. So I don't know what order, Lons, you'll know this, but they've done the variations of that cast have done that. They did American Hustle, and then I just recently saw Joy, which I had no idea was such an incredible movie. Oh my goodness,
I love that film.
And had they already developed that chemistry that seems to have carried forward in all these films? Like, do you feel and then tie it back to the Goldbergs too, that set feels like it must be like a family. Is it strange coming into these situations where there are these people who are playing off each other all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you play a character, you play a, you know, supporting sort of day player role, you know, sort of coming into something like that, it's always hard because they have a whole language, you know, that they're used to working with the director. They've been working for weeks together, you know, and then they obviously started doing more films together. So they really have this sort of tight knit kind of group. So it's always hard to kind of come in and just be like, hey guys, like, I'm here to do my job, and, you know, I want to try to fit in as best as I can. But that was what was so cool about Bradley specifically, was that he was so like, you know, you're a part of this. Like, we're shooting in Philly because this is where I'm from. This is really important to me. And it's a hometown experience. And he just was so welcoming and so lovely, and made me feel like I deserved to be there, which I didn't know if I did. I mean, you know, you're like on set with some of the biggest stars in the world, and you're like, how did I get here? Is this right? And he's like, yeah, you got the part, and yeah, like, come on in and do your thing. And so as intimidating as it was to be on a set with, you know, Robert De Niro and David O. Russell and Bradley Cooper and Jennifer and all of that, it was also like, oh no, like, we picked you and here you are, like, let's do it. So yeah, it's I keep saying it's wild, but that's really like the best way to describe it, I think.
Well, we don't want to take up all your time with Silver Linings Playbook. Let's go back to the Goldbergs. You know, our background right now is in the living room, and you said it was pretty wild. Does it look exactly like how it was, you know, in real life?
No.
Okay.
No, not really. Not so much. It was more of a trip for me to be on the TV set and to be sitting on the sofa that you see on TV every Wednesday, right? It was like, this is the actual, here I am, you know, in this world that I've only seen on a TV screen, and I'm sitting on the actual sofa, and there's the TV, and there's the fireplace, and there's this, and oh my goodness, and then look, you can see through there's the dining room, and there's the kitchen. Like, you know, I was just like geeking out, obviously, because it was so surreal to be like, oh, this, because my first scene that I shot was the scene when I meet when Adam comes in, and I've just started talking to Beverly, and then Murray comes home. So it was like, oh yeah, this is really happening. Okay. Wow.
So speaking of your interactions with the adults, so I'm going to get a little personal here.
Okay.
But more personal for, I guess, on behalf of your on your mom in a way. But Mr. Woodburn asks your character out. You're sort of was your mom like, was your mom sort of, did she have a lot of fans amongst the, single dads in Philly? Was that like a common occurrence? Sorry, is this am I over the line?
Oh, it's really funny. I'm sure my mom is freaking out. I honestly don't remember. My mom and dad separated when I was in high school, and I think that like my mom was just so like, okay, I'm doing the mom thing. I'm working. I've got the kids, and you know, all of that. But I think my mom has always had fans because my mom's adorable. It's safe to say she's pretty adorable. But yeah, back then she was definitely not dating any of my high school.
not Principal Ball did not ask her out.
No.
There's someone in our Goldnerds crew. Jim Russell Art says he knows your dad. That your dad was your dad the general manager of Tiffy Pontiac in the 80s?
No, I think was.
Oh no, her dad, his wife. Okay,
maybe? Got
it. His wife's dad. This was confusing.
Yeah,
to me and my ability to process grammar.
Oh no, please. I grew up. So I did not grow up in Jenkintown. I grew up in like the Northwood, Frankfurt area of the city, which is in the northeast. So not suburban. You know what I mean? Like definitely more like Philadelphia zip code, all of that. So I don't really know, like I did not have a Jenkintown experience. You know, I was definitely more in the city, and did not really know about, I didn't know anybody from Jenkintown really until I met Adam.
Great. So you said your first scene was you're in the living room and then Murray walks in. So how was it working with Jeff Garlin? And, you know, we talked about cast chemistry before. Did they do any improv? I mean, you have two improv legends with Jeff Garlin and Wendy. So any improv going on?
Technical issue right now. I'm so sorry to interrupt that question, but my battery's about to die. So I might need to like recalibrate my positioning if that's okay.
No problem. Do you want us to bring you down off screen while you fix that, and then
that would be awesome if that's okay. I'm gonna try.
Oh, thank you for staying with us. Are you kidding?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Most people would be like, my battery's dying. Stop asking me these questions. Gotta go.
I need to figure out a way to kind of readjust myself so that I can keep doing this, if that's okay.
No problem. So we'll drop you out. Just wave to me, and when you feel like you're back, and we'll bring you back into the show.
Amazing. Okay.
All right, we will be back with Brea B in a moment. Lons, let's talk about. You know, this is a great time for our other poll, because our other poll is going to be about what we are grateful for in the Goldverse this year in 2020. So I'm putting this
great
out here.
Thanksgiving poll.
Yeah, this is, Thanksgiving is coming this week, and we've got the poll this week up, and this one what is more synonymous with Thanksgiving than Uncle Marv, right? So
right.
go to go to Mentimeter or go to menti.com, put in this code, join us, vote. We want to see your votes. Let's see if people are already putting stuff in. Maybe not, because I just dropped it in, and there's a delay, so probably not. But what are you most thankful for? This is a word cloud, so just anything that you comes to your mind. Like me, I'm grateful for Lou Schneider. He directed this last episode, which was definitely one of my favorite ones of the season. So that's like, I'm going to put that in right now. Lons, how about you?
I think I'm always grateful for Pops. We got to shout out to our, incomparable George Siegel. So thank you, Pops, for just being around, being Pops.
That's awesome. All right, Brea's back. Brea, we're talking about things that we're thankful for in the Goldverse right now in honor of Thanksgiving. And I'm doing the entering. Do you have a word that you'd throw in? This is a little word cloud we're going to do.
A word cloud?
Yeah. So I'm just something that comes to your mind that you're thankful for in the Goldnerds, in the Goldverse. So like Adam F. Goldberg could be one of those things, or it could be the couch in the living room. Anything that comes to your mind in the Goldverse could be, Principal Ball. I don't know.
It could be Principal Ball there. Oh my gosh. Like, how do you pick, I think I would just have to say Bev. I'd say Bev. Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to be a strong word cloud right there. Beverly, our fearless leader. So yeah, as I was saying, I was just wondering, with the cast chemistry between Jeff and Wendy and their improv legends, was there any improving going on, Blaney?
Not so much. They're pretty true to the script. They stay pretty steady with that. But definitely Jeff Garland I was crying on set because he really does just kind of go, or at least when I was there, he was just, coming up with things. When he's coming home and taking off his pants and talking to Adam about the phones, and, he would, if he would reword something or he would change it up a little bit. And I was like, he would go off on these like tangents, and I was like trying not to cry because I was laughing so hard. He is hilarious and so much fun.
When he does those when he gets things wrong, that is such a dad move. That's totally something that I would do myself, which is like to my kids, which is like just get things wrong on purpose. And when he starts going through the Gorbachev thing, I don't know if you were on set for that scene, but in the scene in the episode where he starts trying to guess who Brea B is, and he's like, "Oh, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds."
Oh yeah, has a mole on her face.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, I read that. I was laughing so hard. I was not on set. So because of the current situation with COVID, obviously, like, set protocols have become much more serious and strict, and there have been a lot of changes to keep everything as safe as possible. So there's not a lot of like, oh, you can just sit right here and listen, or you can watch on the monitor, or you can be over here. Like, you can't be anywhere unless you're actually on camera. Like, when you finish your scene, you're off, you're out, and they bring in the other people to keep it safe. So I kind of wish that I could have hung out, because I love that. Like, I'll sit and watch all day. Yeah. Especially with Jeff and Wendy. I mean, anybody on the show, but to be able to watch them work I love being able to watch great people work. But yeah, they were pretty strict about, once you were done your scene, you were definitely not in the studio.
Got it.
Yeah.
How was working with yourself, Sadie Stanley, Brea B, who plays Brea? How was it working with your younger self? And had you talked with her before? Because I know some of the actors have talked with their real life counterparts before. So had she come to you before, or was this the first time you've met her?
First time. I was like, it was so surreal, again, because I've been watching her since she started last season. And I had been hearing about her on set all week. They were like, oh, Sadie is like so amazing, and she's so sweet and so professional, and she does such a great job, and you guys totally look alike. Casting's crazy, and how they did that. And I just had been hearing all this great stuff, and I love her portrayal of me, obviously. I mean, she's so delightful on the show. So I got to meet her, and I was just like, again, it's such a strange mental experience where you're like, wait, so you play me. It's the weirdest thing. But obviously it was so cool. I mean, she's adorable. She's so lovely and delightful. And I mean, I had the best time talking with her. We took a picture together. Sean took a picture of us. I was like, can I get a picture with my little mini me? She's like, oh, of course. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well,
yeah.
I want to take a moment just to let's analyze this poll together here.
Word
cloud here. So as you can see, not all couples are beloved on the show. It seems the thing people are most thankful for is Barry and Ren breaking up. There is a lot of Blaney love. Lons and I are Blaney propagandists, but we've got some Brea B in there. People are still voting. This is awesome. We've got, of course,
Vic. Vic is in there. Love Vic.
Yes, Haley, of course. She did. She was the last. She did the show. Lou, I put Lou in because I loved this last episode. I thought.
He was so awesome to work with. Wow.
Well, thank you everybody for voting in our polls. We love the Gold Nerd participation. I'm gonna drop the poll now.
So cool.
Now, so Lou directed this episode. Was he, kind of like David O. Russell on set, meticulously, like right next to you? How is that? How is he like as a director?
Well, they give you, so there's definitely more space now. They're not quite right there, especially because of COVID. Everybody's kind of off, to a different area. But always chiming in. Like anytime I had a question, he was right there, on speaker. So you can hear him because he's not right in the space. But yeah, he was amazing. He had tons of ideas, and he was like, hey, we're just going to try a bunch of things, and I'm going to tell you some different things to do, and you just try them out, and we'll just play. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's the best way you could possibly do it. And he was great. He had so many cool ideas for the lines, and he would let me, change it up. And he was very, very, very just fun. And again, so supportive, so nice. Everybody on the cast, on the crew were just like, oh, hey, you're part of the family, come on in. It's like a dream come true to work on a show like that, where everybody is so happy to be there, proud of the work they're doing, happy to be part of such a great story, to be part of 8 seasons of something. That's it's so rare to get to do that, and you can feel it. You just know that everybody they're all really proud, and they really care about it. So it was incredible.
We love to hear that over here on the Gold Nerd side. Love to hear that everyone loves to work, because we love to watch the show, and it wouldn't be the same if the cast didn't like each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, you can feel it's an absolute family. It's really cool.
Now, Sean and Wendy is one of I've been watching, I'm a Sean and Wendy-ologist, because I have loved the evolution of the two of them on screen. That's one of the things that I think is part of the magic of the Goldbergs, is you have this kid kind of come out of nowhere, Sean Gambroni, and Wendy, this incredible accomplished improviser and actor and comedian and all these things. And the two of them really have to do these dynamic duo scenes where they're arguing but also love each other. You got a front row seat to that. Are there any nifty angles you picked up, either from your actor perspective that they do together, that or just any anecdotes about them working together?
I mean, it was one of my favorite parts of being on the show is to watch them have their little bit when I first introduced in the episode, and they're going back and forth, and they're just so delightful. They crack each other up. You know, he laughs all the time. He's just, like, they are so sweet. And I absolutely agree with you. I love the evolution of their relationship and their dynamic, the mother-son, and Adam's getting older and he's figuring out what he wants to be and who he wants to be. And she's, you know, being that mom that's like, okay, I'll give you some room, but not too much room because I want to, you know, smother you and be my, you know, have my baby, schmoopy, all of that stuff. Like, it's just, there's such a fascinating, like, watching Sean grow up into the version of Adam that I knew. It has been really wild too, you know? But I love where their relationship is. And he's just, he's like a young man now. So they've got this whole new dynamic. It's wild. Love it.
That's awesome. There were a couple of, I just want to reflect on the episode for a moment.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things in that show that seem to have really come alive on Twitter in that episode. And one of them that I've seen was when Wendy tells Jeff, nobody cares about your old dead trollops. I feel like that's going to be a a t-shirt soon. Goldnerds, let us know if you want an old dead trollops t-shirt. That one absolutely killed me. And then another line that killed me was when you stare point blank at Wendy and you say, "You're crazy. Your whole family is crazy." You're saying that, but you're also saying about people you know. Are you just totally in character then, and you're not you saying that Adam's family is crazy, or are you trying to reconcile both in that moment?
Oh no, it's all character. I can't think about, like, I couldn't even really think about my mom. Once I got on set, I was just like, I'm playing a mom, you know? It happens to be my mom, technically. But in my head, I was like, I'm playing a mom. I love my daughter. I want to get to know her boyfriend's family and, you know, and just do what a mom does. But yeah, in that moment, no, I was just like, wow, you know, you guys are nuts. As a defense sort of right? As like well, if you think, you know, you have an issue with me because I'm divorced, like, you know, you guys don't have a phone. What? Like, come on, that's dangerous. What if you needed to call 911 or something? You know, what if someone's choking?
Yeah, you invited me over to get to know each other, and I already feel like I know too much. That's another one that just killed me.
It was so fun. I loved the character. I you know, it's like when you're playing your mom, you know, it's such a, you know, that you're playing your mom, but it's also not literally your mom. So there's this, it was a weird blend of like, okay, I know my mom and I know how to be like her, but I also have, like, she's a character on a show. So it's not exactly her. It's the idea of her. So, okay, so then I can bring this in, that. It's like it was a weird kind of blend of playing my mom and then playing just like, okay, I'm playing a mom in the story. So that I wouldn't be so thinking of like, well, would my mom have said that? Would she have said it this way or that way? And then you're not really like in the moment listening to the other actors. You're too much like, well, I don't think my mom would have held the cup this well. It's like, okay, relax.
That is something we often, like, as a fan, I'm sometimes reminding other people, like, it's based on true story, but it is also a fictional show, right? Like, some of the things really happen, and some of the things are exaggerations.
Definitely.
Lons, how are we doing on time? I know we want to be respectful of Brea's time.
Yeah, we want to be respectful of your time. So what I really want to know is, where can we see you next? What future projects do you have coming up so we can watch more Brea B?
So as of right now, I am in my little kind of, okay, let's see what happens mode. I am basically at this point just auditioning. I don't have anything up on the horizon, in the near horizon, if you will. I'm just kind of, you know, waiting to see what happens. It's been kind of a wild year, obviously. Everyone knows that, especially here in LA. Yeah. but productions are going on. The Goldbergs is going on. People are really rallying to make things possible and to keep things as safe as they can so we can still keep shooting and TV and movies. And so I am at this point, hoping to come back. Oh, thanks, Susan. Yeah, hoping to come back as Vicky B. That would be really
hopefully
fun.
That's where we want to see you next, is Vicky B with the Frentas. Let's make it happen for 2021.
I don't know if David O. Russell has Twitter, but I think you fit in just great with that cast. So let's Lons and I, we're always, giving advice. When we had Adam on, we like pitched him a whole other TV show. So
we have a 90 or a 2000s version of the Goldverse, Jenkintown, PA.
Oh,
more of a dramedy.
That I would totally tune in for that. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, David actually is he's getting ready to shoot another feature very, very soon. So David, if you're listening.
Hey,
we know he's a huge fan of this podcast.
And we will get you, fingers crossed on that film.
And yes. and I've been flashing it throughout, but just people can follow you at all these wonderful places. Is that at BreaB.com? Can you explain the Fairy Bee thing? Because it took me a double take to find you on Instagram.
Oh man.
And I love and I, again, it's part of my research. I have to go and look at do the real like deep liking on people's Instagrams. And I loved your little reference to the dark crystal, which is so it gives you like legit Goldberg cred. Like that's just your personality. And I loved that series.
Dark Crystal. Lost my mind. There was a little gelfling named Brea. I was like, what's happening? I really truly was like, is this to somebody? I was like, this must be from the fairies. It's a gift. It's magic.
So where does the fairy name come from? Are you just a mystical kind of character?
I don't know how mystical I would, characterize myself as, but I do love fairies. I always have. I've always thought they were just such a fun little kind of fantasy, kind of magical thing. I was always, I guess it started when I was a baby, maybe with like Tinkerbell, and I always loved glitter. So I was like, these little things are pretty cool. These fairies look like they have a lot of fun. I was like, I love, I love glitter. I love nature. Yeah, fairies. I love magical things. And I when I got onto Instagram, Brea B was already taken.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
It was, I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So, let's just, shout out to fairies and fairy lore, and let's just do a fairy beat. Yeah. I think they're just, I don't know. I've always liked them. And thought it was just kind of a cute little name.
Well, Goldnerds, everyone, if you haven't already, start hitting follow on @FairyB on IG and @_Brea_B_ on Twitter. And
awesome. Thank you.
And I'm Lons. You can find me at PKPrime12 on Instagram and Twitter. And Shai, hit us with your digits.
You can follow me at Pancake4Table. Pancake and the number 4 table on Twitter and Instagram. You can also catch me every week with my other sisters. Lons is my Goldverse sister, but my actual biological sisters on the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Every Friday we drop another conversation between 3 siblings making fun of each other and talking about pop culture. So hope you can join us for that.
And this has been a Goldnerds live podcast. And you can find us on the Goldnerds at the Goldnerds on Twitter, at Goldnerds on Instagram. There it is, guys.
And we want to say a huge thank you to the amazing Brea B.
Thank you so much, Brea B. You have been so delightful, wonderful. If I had more adjectives with my thesaurus, I would say them to you. You have been so kind. Thank you so much for coming on.
This was such a thrill and such an honor. I love the podcast. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad to be a real live part of the Goldverse. And it's a dream come true. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I know all the fans are so thankful. So many amazing comments. Thank you, Goldnerds, for always making these live podcasts so much fun, for voting, for your comments, for your questions, and for sharing all the love with our amazing guests who take time out of their busy day to hang with us. And there's a call for you, Lons, to do your closing.
Let's do it. JTP out.
Have a live episode.
Love you guys.
Love you. Thank you
so much.
Bye.